the real easy way, or maybe the easier way, not real easy, but easier, is to explain how to the buyers and to the financiers, diverse the representation on screen does better financially.
Mhm.
It's just been shown over and over again that Gina Davis Institute does all kinds of research on this and reports, and the studios and networks are listening, and they're saying, okay, I get it now. There are more when we represent society on screen the way it exists in the world, people can connect to that show better and can feel um, more a part of it.
Hey there. Welcome to the Speak and Flow podcast. I am so glad you're here. This show is for leaders who care. Leaders who know that when things get messy, the way we communicate makes all the difference. Every week, I sit down with incredible guests, founders, VPs, rising stars, to unpack real moments of today where communication matters. We talk about what works, what doesn't, and how you can lead conversations that create trust, movement, and momentum. Because in uncertain times like today, your words have weight. Let's use them well. Let's dive in. Welcome, dear listeners, to the Speak and Flow podcast, where we dive into unique stories and experiences to help you during these high impact moments as leaders. Today, we are talking about DEI. And I don't even know if I can use that term DEI anymore, which is unfortunate. But I have an amazing leader. His name is Brian McLaughlin, and we're going to talk about how we can continue to carry the conversation through film, TV, because he's a TV producer and co-president of Emerald Elephant Entertainment. He's produced multiple feature films acquired for distribution, with titles streaming on Amazon Prime, and has developed both comedy and drama series currently being pitched to networks and other platforms. I'm so glad to have Brian here. He's a longtime consulting development producer for over 100 films and TV projects, a member of the Producers Guild of America, and active member and panel moderator within the industry. I'm excited. He's a creative. He has worked and served in senior productions and COVID compliance roles for major studios, including Disney, Hulu, ABC, and OWN. A former armor major and Afghanistan veteran. He continues to support veterans entering entertainment while teaching, writing, and mentoring the next generation of storytellers. Brian, I am so happy that you're here. Welcome to the Speak and Flow podcast.
Thank you, Melinda. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, DEI is something that we no longer are supposed to talk about or supposed to do, and but I think it's important for us as leaders to understand in moments like these, what can we do? How can we use our voice to still continue to bring people forward, or we can also use our voice to separate people. And that's what this conversation is about. Because I think that sometimes when people think about DEI, they don't know what to do with it. We don't know what's happening. A lot has changed. And so I'm really appreciative for the conversation today. And so let's just kick it off with one question. The first question
Mhm.
being, if someone were to listen to this episode around DEI, what could change in their life?
Well, I like to think that people will be less confrontational and angry and even fearful, because I think a lot of our reactions, especially lately, come from those sort of sources, and maybe it's the fault of um, pundits and talking heads who like to drive audience retention through conflict and division. Um, but I really think that DEI shouldn't be rooted in any of that. I mean, really, it's just trying to level the playing field, and there the understanding of the reality that people of different backgrounds and different demographics have different experiences in the workplace and in society is not always understood by the other folks. And so, if we can have a greater understanding of those truths, statistically supported and supported through research, then I think that DEI will be more accepted because everyone uh, wants a fair playing field, a level playing field, and I don't think that people will object to it so much if they understand that that's what it's all about. But people will say, "Oh, it's been well over 100 years since slavery. Why are Black people still complaining?" And the fact is that within my lifetime, much of my lifetime, there were things like redlining in housing and mortgages, and that's not very long ago. And
Right.
and and also just there was a very recent study about taking resumes and just changing the name to be more black sounding and then giving them to people and saying, "What do you think about these candidates?" And everything else is exactly the same. And the reactions were, more negative for the black sounding names. And it's just a reality. And sadly, it's because of, I think, to a great extent, because of my industry and how images have been presented over the decades. And so to present more positive images of people of color, of women, of disabled folks, of LGBT community. That I think that, and not necessarily positive, but just like equal, like represents society the way on screen, the way it is in real life, and that's what DEI really is about in my mind. It's not what people might call a woke Disney agenda. It's like, oh, this is actually better for our film and TV project, better for the audience, and better for the world.
So do you think the people that are pushing back, are they pushing back because they think that it's already a level playing field and they think that it's not necessary anymore?
I believe that's the case, just from conversations I've had personally. I really hesitate to say anyone is being a racist or a sexist or other kind of prejudice. I think it's really just about lack of exposure to the experiences that other people have had, and I've been involved in even before it was called DEI with this sort of thing since 2005 or so, through my university and the company I used to work for, and then throughout my film and TV career. And the conversation I have with people who have gone through those life experiences is very different from people who have not. And it's just a matter of how do we communicate diversity to people who haven't had to experience those things, and help them to understand that it is leveling a playing field that is not level. One of my friends, Francis Kazi, did a great documentary called The Long Shadow about how tracing from slavery to today, and how African American folks have to still deal with a lot of things that are, can really be connected back to slavery and a lot of things that have happened since slavery. And I mean, I already was leaning towards that understanding, but to see the history really depicted on screen was an eye opener for me. And that's what I think is an important thing to do, is just open people's eyes. And not that people try to have closed eyes, but it just hasn't always been communicated well.
Yeah. What would you say to those people that say, hey, it's done? Like you said, slavery's been 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Let it go. It's done. It's over. We
right.
are in a level playing field now. What would you say to that?
I mean, and it doesn't have to be slavery. It can even look at gender. If you watch Mad Men and the world depicted in that decade, and how women were treated and viewed, it was like, oh my God, this is not how we look at women now. Women are hopefully able to contribute to society equally to their male counterparts, and that's great for society. It's great for organizations when the best leader of any demographic is the one who's there. And but because I don't know, I don't want to say the system, because it's not a policy thing, but it's just human nature. We tend to favor people who we can relate to the best, meaning they look like us. And so
Mm,
a white man is going to, given everything else being equal, will probably pick the white man and for a role and or for a promotion or for hiring, whatever it is. It's that's why there is this leg up that and then it repeats itself over and over again for decades, and that's why there's in leadership roles there are very so in CEO roles there are very few women, just statistically, and it's not because there have been policies in corporations saying don't promote women. No, it's just that people, it's human nature, and so to say, well, let's have a certain a quota, and I don't want, maybe that's a negative word, but to try to purposefully um, favor people who or have more representation in your leadership
yeah.
is a better way of saying it. Then it helps everyone because those are really good candidates, and they will contribute in a way that is different from their male or white or able non-disabled counterparts. So bringing in all that divergence of thought is beneficial, and so that's the reason we're doing it, not because we want to look like we're social justice warriors. It's like this is good for the organization, it's good for the individuals, and it's also good for overall, it's good for business.
Do you think that it's time though? Because we've had this requirement, DEI requirement for quite some time. And so it could be that the administration says now that we're all aware, let's not have a quota, a requirement.
Hmm.
Let's just do it because it makes sense, because it's good for the organization.
Yeah, and I agree with that um, that concept, but I don't think that in practice that there's complete truth to that or complete accuracy. I don't want to say people make it sound like some people are lying. It's just a matter of when you have programs like affirmative action and DEI, and some people get helped, then the reaction from the people who are not those people is that, oh, we lost out because of that. So when one person gains, another person has to lose. At least that's the perception. And
Mhm.
so if you get rid of that, then I think that those losses will reverse. And people have used terms like the great replacement theory, I think is the accurate wording, but which just isn't a reality, but it's a scare tactic. And I think fear is a big thing. So fear of losing out to someone else. But I think the benefits, particularly with everyone struggling right now and everyone worried about their employment and their finances, to say, well, why is that person getting an advantage is a natural human reaction. But it's the fact is they're not getting an advantage. It's a matter of taking away the disadvantage that they've always faced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is the timing right? I wish that I could say that, yeah, it is great. Let's stop worrying about that. But I think the problem still exists. It's a different problem than it was in, say, the 60s or in between. The problem keeps, or the effort keeps evolving as the situation evolves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what do you think we could give to, what advice would you give to the people that are the disadvantaged?
Hang in there. Keep basically, I would say, rather than only looking for the assistance of what was called DEI. So still try to take advantage of those opportunities, but also create your own opportunities to the extent possible, which everyone has to do. And but just don't be discouraged by the doors not being as open as you would hope, or as open as you see other people getting. Just create your own content in my industry. Create content that tells your stories,
Yeah.
and we all have to do that. It's more authentic when you tell a story based on what you're passionate about rather than what you think will be popular. And the same is applies to DEI. Like tell your stories that come from your life rather than what you think will be a popular story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think
love
that'll
that.
help.
I agree. I mean, because that shows our diversity, our perspective, our unique perspective that is different.
Hmm.
So it is our
Yeah.
responsibility to continue to share that in a very compelling, confident way to
Hmm.
demonstrate how you can add value.
Right. I mean, if you look at shows like Watson, which has a male black lead, Matlock, which has two women leads, one of them who's older, one of them who's black. High Potential has a female lead who's very smart, but then the rest of the cast is very diverse, but it's not in your face. It's not like we're going to do this to be really cool and diverse and or you look at most of the HGTV shows, these house renovation and house hunting shows, they represent all kinds of people because all kinds of people hunt for houses. But even the hosts, are women, strong women making bold decisions, and there's seems to be a large LGBT representation in the casting and in the each episode, the people who are on each episode. And I think they do well for reasons like the fact that they represent real life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there was ever any pushback in those networks to say, hey, how about if we have a black lead here or a white lead or a more attractive person, um, which is another thing, just body image is something we don't talk about too much in DEI, but that's a thing.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so if you go out there and you
yeah,
create,
they like select a certain body type for
yeah,
image.
right.
Yeah.
So it's, if we go out there and we create content with things like that, images in mind, representation in mind, without saying, well, we're not going to disadvantage. Uh, wait, I'm saying it. I'm saying this wrong. You don't want to have in mind, let's disadvantage the people who have been getting these roles, but you're just casting a broader net.
Yeah. Why do you think there's not as many Asians in film?
Um, I honestly, just as being half Asian myself, I will say that it's possibly because of the family pressure to go into a more traditional and less risky field.
Mhm.
Entertainment is not
Yeah.
exactly the most secure financial path,
Right, right.
and so there are plenty of folks out there. I'm in a couple of groups that are Asian Americans in entertainment, and there is a lot of representation, not necessarily on the screen yet, but people trying to make it, and I think that that's getting better. But when shows like what was it? Oh, there was one that didn't do very well. Okay, anyway, but there's Interior Chinatown is one that I really liked. I don't think it did great. Palm Sunday that Joe Coy did, I think, was a film that didn't do well. And then people will say, oh, that was not great. And so we're not going to do that again. But there are also films like Beef or series like Beef that were fantastic. And many other examples that I think more and more it's becoming, we're seeing more Asian faces. And also in producing and off camera producing and the folks who did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's been a lot of progress, but
Yes.
like you said, I don't think we've reached the point where it represents American society and certainly not global society.
Mhm. And so tell us how, now that DEI is no longer an initiative or endeavors that organizations can roll out, how are you contributing in film in a sense where we continue to lead the conversation of bringing people together, DEI? How do you do that through film?
Well, it's the real easy way, or the maybe the easier way, not real easy, but easier is to explain how to the buyers and to the financiers, diverse the representation on screen does better financially.
Mhm.
It's just been shown over and over again that Gina Davis Institute does all kinds of research on this and reports, and the studios and networks are listening, and they're saying, okay, I get it now. There are more when we represent society on screen the way it exists in the world, people can connect to that show better and can feel more a part of it. and so they'll watch it more, and so you have greater viewership, greater box office, and it's just smart for business. It's also, as I kind of alluded to, talking about the corporate world, the same is true in the entertainment industry. When in the corporate world or off camera, you have people of all demographics, you're going to have broader input, thought input, ideas, and story wise, and so it's going to be a better product. If you're going to write about um, a disabled person, either even just as a character, that doesn't have to be the main story, then have a disabled person in the writer's room who can represent that point of view and add some things that will be more authentic and more eye-opening for a lot of people. Like, oh, I didn't know that's how they feel, or they behave, or they run into those problems, things like that. And same thing in the corporate world, as you have more a broader demographic in the leadership roles, you're going to have a better product, and it's going to go better. So that's a big. I think it's not about being altruistic and helping people out always. It's also about the business sense, and
Hmm.
and then to society. It's I don't know if you've heard of the Scully effect, but after the X-Files became popular, girls started entering the STEM fields at a much higher rate because they were motivated by this fictional character, Dana Scully. And they're like, oh, women can go into science, and they're like, yeah, that looks like a lot of fun, and it really had a continuing, even to this day, effect on society because of one TV show. Or you look at just recently, I met the creator of so many great TV shows. Mary Tyler Moore, Rhoda back in the day. I don't know, but and those shows changed how American society looked at women in the workplace and in society, and it was one person's creation, and it was a very entertaining, but people could connect to it, and they're like, oh, a single woman who's who's living by herself, that can be a TV show, and it can be a real life acceptable thing, and she can have an opinion in the workplace. Oh, that's crazy. And now to think of that, it's like, oh no, of course that all makes sense. So
Yeah.
I mean, those are me as a filmmaker and a TV creator. I mean, I want to have that kind of an impact.
Oh yeah. I mean, you do, and that's what film does. It just can
Yeah.
connect to people at such deep levels,
Hmm.
in such motivating ways and inspiring ways because we
Yeah.
essentially put ourselves into these characters and we can see
Hmm.
ourselves in these characters, and therefore
Right.
there's the Scully effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a powerful way of using this to remind people that there are, like you said, proof that diversity is important. That diversity, that's what people look for, they crave for, and it also makes business sense
Yeah.
because of all that's what people want, and that's what people,
Hmm.
I think, at a deep level, that's how we operate the best when
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
together.
And it should also be just organic.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
and that's where
shouldn't.
the DEI conversation is a little, that's what the debate,
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
of
Right.
DEI, right? And the
Yeah.
conversation is that if we have this requirement in place, is it organic?
Yep.
Um,
If you're going out and saying, I'm going to do this because it'll meet my DEI goals,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
fail. It'll fail.
yeah, yeah,
It's just like
correct.
saying, I'm going to go create a horror story, even though I don't like horrors because horrors are popular. You're going to fail at it because it's not what you're
Yeah,
passionate about. It's not real. I have
yeah.
a film project that's a true story about a military guy who had a very heroic day in Afghanistan. And it's a guy I worked with, a real life person. And he also happens to be African American, and or he would say Dominican American, but he's a black guy. And yes, so that's does make it a DEI project, and it'll will be the first true combat story about an individual black soldier. The first one. It'll be the first one. There
Wow.
hasn't been
I
one.
can't imagine. I can't even believe that. It's the
Yeah,
first one.
but it's
Wow.
not because I'm trying to
Right.
achieve
Right.
that goal. It's because
Right.
there's this amazing story, and I
Yeah.
want to honor this incredible human being.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
another project that I have that is set in a international space station. So most of the cast will be of all different demographics from around the world. but that was I did that not for the goal of having a bunch of different people who looked, internationally. I wanted to. I didn't want to make it a NASA story because this isn't something NASA is working towards, so it wouldn't be believable. So I created this International Space Station just to make the story more sensible. And the fact that it then also involved people from around the world, just because it's international, was a byproduct, not the goal. And
Yeah.
so it's a way of so it does achieve a DEI goal if you had those goals, but it's done because it serves the story better.
Yeah, yeah. So regardless of whatever our environment or administration is telling us,
Hmm.
I want to have one last question for you. When we do this correctly, and we still have opportunity to do this correctly, right now, what changes in our world?
Yeah, I think understanding changes. I think that people, when schools made it a goal to have a more diverse student body, then you had people interacting with each other, living together, going to school, class together every day with people they had never run into before at home. And so they became friends. They became when they visited their friends' homes that they had never gone to, and so there was more. It created more understanding. It strengthened the student body, and it strengthened their education, not necessarily the classwork, but just how their mind was broadened. And I think that's good whether it happens in school or the workplace or on screen. I think it's a benefit that helps all of society. It helps individuals, but it also helps society overall. And so that's what I think the intention is supposed to be working towards. And maybe we've gotten off track at times, or maybe we haven't communicated it perfectly. But I think that's why we should continue to have these programs, whether we rename them or we mold them differently, whatever the outcome is of the current shift in policy, or even within organizations.
Yeah.
I think, but the goals should still exist, and I think the benefits will still come from those goals.
I believe so. And I think that this episode, I've learned a lot, and I'm glad that we're able to still continue this conversation, this important conversation of the values that DEI brings, right? Of building
Hmm.
trust together, right? No matter what we look like, no matter where we've come from, like continuing to build trust and collaborating together and to address some of these very tough, complex situations that we have in the world today. And so
Yeah.
I think we're a lot better together. And so thank you so much, Brian, for the time
Thank you, Melinda.
today. Yes, thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Really fun. And I also want to say to the audience today too, may you take this golden nuggets, implement them today. This is an important time in our society where we are faced with a lot. And but with this conversation that we had today, I hope that you're inspired to continue to bring people together and use your voice to do that and to make a positive difference in the world. Lots of love to you. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Brian, again for your time.
My pleasure, Melinda.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. If this conversation sparked something for you, if you're thinking, we talk a lot in our organization and things still fall through the cracks, we're not getting the results that we want, I've got something for you that might help. It's called the Accountability Self-Assessment, and it takes less than 60 seconds. In one quick review, you'll get real insights as to why accountability and results are slipping on your team. And you'll walk away with a legacy accountability card. It's a simple one-pager framework to help you and your team move talk to traction. Because the legacy of you and your team is built more than just meetings. It's built on clarity, consistency, and follow through. So grab it today. Go to speakandflow.com or click on the link in the show notes. It's free, fast, and built for busy leaders like you. See you next time. Until then, keep communicating with impact and momentum.